If there are any queries, feel free to reach out to us on chat or just reach out to our name and we should be able to respond. Once
Great,
again,
thank you,
welcome
sir.
all. Thank you, DEEYA. Yep. Over to you, Srinidharji.
किसी व्यक्ति के निर्माण का स्वर्णिम समय यौवन काल होता है, जिसमें वह आने वाले लंबे जीवन के लिए शरीर, मन और आत्मा का निर्माण और विकास करता है। इसी नींव पर अपने जीवन का मजबूत भवन खड़ा करता है और उसका भोग करता है। किसी भी राष्ट्र के विकास की आधारशिला और ऊर्जा उसकी युवा शक्ति ही होती है। यही उसका आत्मबल और इच्छा शक्ति भी होती है। इसीलिए कहा गया है, वीर भोग्य वसुंधरा। राष्ट्र निर्माण के ताने बाने में यौवन के ही धागे होते हैं। अतः जो राष्ट्र अपनी इस ऊर्जा का संरक्षण और संवर्धन करता है, वह विकास के उच्च शिखर पर पहुंचता है। राष्ट्र के कृषि, उद्योग, शिक्षा, चिकित्सा, तकनीक, राजनीति रूपी चक्के को यही युवा शक्ति, ऊर्जा व गति प्रदान करती है। यह राष्ट्र की रगों में बहने वाला गर्म खून है, जो उसे चैतन्य और प्रगतिशील बनाता है। भौतिक व आध्यात्मिक दोनों के विकास में इसी ऊष्मा का तप सक्रिय रहता है। इतिहास साक्षी रहा है कि जब किसी राष्ट्र की धुरी लड़खड़ाई है, युवा शक्ति ने आगे आकर अपने पुरुषार्थ से उसे सुदृढ़ बनाया है। आज अनेक प्रकार की समस्याएं जैसे नशा, फैशन प्रस्ती, पाश्चात्य जीवन शैली, आस्था संकट, भ्रष्टाचार, बेरोजगारी देश की युवा शक्ति पर आरूढ़ हैं। आज युवा शक्ति को आत्मबोध एवं अपने सांस्कृतिक गौरव से परिचित कराना समय की मांग है। वर्ष 2011 की जनगणना के अनुसार हमारे देश में 35 वर्ष तक की उम्र की 65% आबादी है। यह युवा शक्ति जिधर चल पड़ेगी, देश भी उधर ही चल पड़ेगा। अतः देश का भविष्य अब युवाओं के हाथ में है। यह युवा शक्ति ही राष्ट्र शक्ति बनकर राष्ट्र को समृद्धि, उन्नति एवं प्रगति के मार्ग पर ले जाएगी। युग ऋषि पंडित श्री राम शर्मा आचार्य जी ने युवा की अद्भुत परिभाषा दी है। युवा वो है असंभव जिसके शब्दकोश में नहीं, जो बाधाओं को चीरकर अपना मार्ग बनाता है, जो परिस्थितियों का दास नहीं, उनका निर्माता, नियंत्रणकर्ता एवं स्वामी है, जो भाग्य नहीं, अपने कर्म पर विश्वास रखता है, जो उमंग, उत्साह, जोश से जीता वो सुनहरे भविष्य के सपने देखता है, जो स्वयं सब कुछ करके गौरव अनुभव करता है और विश्व में कुछ अनूठा करना चाहता है।
असमंजस व अवसाद की स्थिति से गुजर रही युवा पीढ़ी को दिशा देने का काम एक चिंतक ही कर सकता है।
नमस्कार।
वर्ष 2006 में देव संस्कृति विश्वविद्यालय के दीक्षांत समारोह में पूर्व राष्ट्रपति डॉक्टर APJ अब्दुल कलाम व श्रद्धेय डॉक्टर प्रणव पंड्या जी, जो विश्वविद्यालय के कुलपति भी हैं, मिले और इन दोनों चिंतकों ने मंथन किया कि युवा पीढ़ी को एक सृजनात्मक मंच देने की आवश्यकता है, जो राष्ट्र निर्माण में सहायक हो। यहीं से दिया की नींव रखी गई।
I am indeed delighted to participate in the second convocation of Dev Sanskriti Vishwavidyalaya. I am very happy that this institution has been created with a motto of developing the divine culture, which is of utmost importance to us while we are on the path of transforming India into a prosperous, happy and peaceful society. We have the responsibility of transforming India into a developed nation before the year 2020. It is an endless journey through knowledge and enlightenment. Such a journey opens up new vistas of development or humanism, where there is no scope nor room for pettiness, disharmony, jealousy and hatred or enmity. It transforms a human being into a wholesome whole, a noble soul and an asset to the universe. God bless you.
जिस तरह एक दिया अंधकार को दूर करने की क्षमता रखता है, दिया भी इस देश के युवा मन से अंधेरे को दूर करने का स्वप्न लेकर चला है। ये प्रशिक्षण और कार्यशालाओं के माध्यम से शिक्षित, स्वस्थ, आत्मनिर्भर, विनम्र, संवेदनशील दिव्य युवाओं को तैयार करने के लिए प्रयासरत है, जिससे राष्ट्र निर्माण की रचनात्मक गतिविधियां चलाई जा सकें, दिव्य भारत का पुनर्निर्माण हो। इसका लक्ष्य युवाओं की क्षमताओं का विकास कर दिव्य भारत का निर्माण करना है, जिसमें व्यक्ति, परिवार व समाज का उत्थान हो। दिया युवाओं के सपनों में आदर्शवाद लाकर उनकी वैचारिक प्रक्रिया में सकारात्मक बदलाव लाने के लिए प्रयासरत है। वैज्ञानिक अध्यात्म के माध्यम से युवाओं में देवत्व की अभिव्यक्ति, दुनिया में सद्भाव के साथ सतयुग की वापसी इसका परम उद्देश्य है। इस तथ्य की महत्वता समझते हुए वो डॉक्टर कलाम के भारतवर्ष को वर्ष 2020 तक एक समृद्ध राष्ट्र बनाने के स्वप्न की ओर युवा शक्ति को अग्रसर करने के लिए दिया इस महान राष्ट्र के युवाओं के लिए एक आंदोलन है जो मजबूत सिद्धांतों और यथार्थवादी लक्ष्यों पर आधारित है। जो लोग दिल और दिमाग से युवा हैं एवं जो एक नए भारत की परिकल्पना के हमारे स्वप्न से सहमत हैं, उम्र, जाति या धर्म की परवाह किए बगैर हमसे जुड़े।
मुझे विश्वास है गायत्री परिवार के दिया आंदोलन के माध्यम से देश के युवाओं में वो संवेदनाएं प्रकट होगी, सामाजिक जिम्मेवारियां प्रकट होगी, एक साहस की वृत्ति पैदा होगी, कुछ करने के लिए, कुछ कर करके दिखाने के लिए जीवन को लगाने की इच्छा होगी। देश के लिए जीना सीखो, इस मंत्र के साथ
इस आंदोलन से जुड़कर आपके जीवन में खुशी एवं एक नए उत्साह का संचार होगा। साथ ही अपने राष्ट्र को नई ऊंचाइयों तक ले जाने में आप गौरवान्वित महसूस करेंगे।
सभी को प्रणाम। मैं ऑल वर्ल्ड गायत्री परिवार के यूथ विंग दिया डिवाइन इंडिया यूथ एसोसिएशन मुंबई की तरफ से आप सभी लोगों का आज की इस ज्ञान सभा में आप सबका स्वागत करती हूँ। इससे पहले कि हम आगे की क्रम बढ़ें, आप सभी से निवेदन है कि एक छोटी सी प्रेयर हमारे साथ बोलें, so that let us all pray to the supreme power to enlighten our intellect and guide us to the rightest path. ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। Well, the video shown some minutes ago was about Divine India Youth Association and what all are the activities it has been doing over the past several years. It is a group of like-minded people who come from various sections of the society with only one goal in mind: betterment of self and society at large. Gyan Sabha is one such platform that has been instrumental in bringing together various thought leaders from various fields such as science and technology, literature, art, culture, sports, education, etc., who have put forward their inspirational thoughts on various aspects. This initiative by DEEYA, which was started many years back, has adopted a digital platform post the pandemic in the last 10 months, while everyone was dealing with COVID adversity and trying to overcome the various obstacles thrown upon us by life. While talking about overcoming obstacles and achieving greater heights, well, quite literally, brings us to the topic for the day, which is beyond Everest. Mount Everest is not the only highest peak in the world, but an ultimate symbol of challenge, perseverance, and achievement. Everyone knows that the first people to climb Mount Everest were Sir Edmund Hillary and Sherpa Norgay. But not everyone knows that it was their first shot at scaling the world's highest peak. The story goes that after a failed attempt some years earlier, Sir Hillary Edmund found himself at the base camp wondering if he'd make it at the top. And then suddenly he stepped out in the sun and looking at the Mount Everest, he screamed, "I will come again and conquer you. Because as a mountain, you cannot grow, but as a human, I can." परम पूज्य पंडित श्री राम शर्मा आचार्य जी, जो गायत्री परिवार के फाउंडर और हमारे प्रेरणा स्रोत हैं, उन्होंने हमें एक बहुत अच्छी और ज़रूरी सूत्र दिया है जो कि हम सभी को अपने जीवन में उतारना चाहिए, विच इज़ परिवार निर्माण, आत्मनिर्माण और समाज निर्माण। ये हमारा सौभाग्य है कि हम आज एक ऐसी युवती से जुड़ने जा रहे हैं जो इन तीनों को बहुत ही एक्सीलेंट रूप से उन्होंने हम सभी को दिखाया है। आत्मनिर्माण जो कि पहली बात है, उन्होंने अपने आप को इस तरह काबिल बनाया कि वो एवरेस्ट क्लाइंब कर पाएं। उनके पिता और उनके परिवार ने परिवार निर्माण का हमें एग्जाम्पल दिया, जिन्होंने अपनी बेटी को इस मुकाम तक पहुंचाया कि वो एवरेस्ट क्लाइंब कर पाए। और दिया जी साथ ही साथ उन महिलाओं में से एक हैं जो बाकी महिलाओं को प्रेरित करती हैं और समाज निर्माण की ओर बढ़ती जा रही हैं। There's so much to learn from the life of our speaker today, and it is a very great pleasure to have her on Gyan Sabha platform. Well, to give a brief introduction of DEEYA ma'am, DEEYA BAJAJ is a modern day explorer, an adventurer, and a motivational speaker. Through her experiences on some of the most challenging adventures on the planet, we will hear ma'am talk about how to embrace adversity and make the most of the challenging situations. Having traveled through the toughest terrains in the world, she has demonstrated some very important virtues like leadership, teamwork, and how to take decisions while staying positive during the difficult times. She and her father are the first Indian father-daughter team to climb the Mount Everest. She is also the youngest in the world to ski across the Greenland Ice Cap. She has climbed 6 out of the 7 summits, which are the highest mountains in each continent. She is also a whitewater and sea kayaker. And achieving all of this, she is also a women's rights advocate. With International Women's Day approaching next week, it is a great pleasure to have such a young and motivational women speaker with us today. Ma'am, हम तहे दिल से आपका आज इस ज्ञान सभा में स्वागत करते हैं और आपसे आग्रह करते हैं कि आप अपने विचार हमारे सामने व्यक्त करें। दिया बजाज मैम।
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I just want to say it's an absolute honor to be here. The work that you're doing, DEEYA Mumbai, is absolutely incredible. And it's an honor to be speaking at your Gyan Sabha today. तो आज मैं आपको एक जर्नी पे ले जाऊंगी. मैं आपको माउंट एवरेस्ट ले जाऊंगी ऑन एन एक्सपेडिशन, और फिर मैं थोड़ा बताऊंगी कि मैं वहां कैसे पहुंची, क्यों पहुंची, और वहां पहुंचते पहुंचते मैं क्या सीखी. अभी मैं अपना स्क्रीन शेयर करती हूँ ताकि आई कैन शो यू ऑल सम पिक्चर्स एंड वीडियोस एज वेल. Great. So I've been climbing the outdoors, बाहर जाना, ये सब adventure जब से मैं बहुत ही छोटी थी मेरे लिए शुरू हुआ. My father was the first Indian to ski to the North and the South Pole. उनको इसके लिए पद्मश्री भी मिला. और तो एडवेंचर मेरे परिवार में बहुत ही नॉर्मल था. मैं एक्चुअली आई थिंक आई वेंट ऑन माय फर्स्ट हाइक बिफोर आई कुड वॉक. मैं शायद 4-5 साल की थी जब मैं पहले अपने पापा के साथ बाहर गई, और मुझे बहुत ही अच्छा लगा. You know, I used to love being outdoors. I love spending time in nature. And I realized that adventure and the outdoors can teach you so much. So, you know, when I was 12 years old, I went for my first mountaineering course at the Nehru Institute of Mountaineering in Uttarkashi. And then when I was 14 years old, my father got invited to go on an expedition to kayak in Greenland. And मैं 14 साल की थी उस टाइम, और मैंने पापा से बोला कि मैं आ सकती हूँ आपके साथ, और उन्होंने हाँ बोला. So that was my first major expedition. मैं उनके साथ गई, और I learned so much. You know, हम 14 दिन के लिए वहाँ थे, बर्फ में हम कायाकिंग कर रहे थे, और हमने ये सीखा कि you know, सब मेरे से बहुत ही ओल्ड थे. मतलब मैं 14 साल की थी, और उस वक्त the next oldest person was I think 36 years old. और मुझे याद था कि जाने से पहले मैं सोच रही थी मैं क्या करूंगी, मैं 14 साल की हूँ और सब इतने बड़े हैं, वहां कोई इंटरनेट नहीं था, देयर वाज नो टीवी, नथिंग, you're just there, you and the outdoors, absolutely no other connection to the outside world. But that's what you realize, when you go out there and you don't have anyone but the people around you. You realize it doesn't matter कि लोग कितने साल के हैं, कौन सी language बोलते हैं, whether वो लड़का या लड़की हैं. At the end of the day, when you're going out there and you're doing these things together, um, इतना मजा आता है, पर you bond so much also because you have no one else to talk to and nothing else to do when you're going through these difficult situations together, that you realize at the end of the day, age is but a number, and the outdoors can really, really bring people together. So while I was out there, I remember in Greenland, we saw the Greenland Ice Cap. The Greenland Ice Cap, as some of you might know, is the second largest chunk of ice on our planet. And I remember जब मैंने इसको देखा तो मैंने पापा से बोला कि हमें यहाँ जरूर वापस आना चाहिए एक दिन. पर प्रॉब्लम है कि मैंने ये ऑफ हैंड कमेंट बनाया, मतलब बस ऐसे ही मजाक में बोला हमें एक बारी आना है और ये आइस कैप देखना ही है, देखना है. पर मेरे पापा उनको एडवेंचर इतना अच्छा लगता है, ऐसे ही मजाक में कुछ नहीं बोल सकते, क्योंकि 3 साल बाद श्योर इनफ हम वापस आए, इस बारी एक स्कीइंग एक्सपीडिशन के लिए. तो हम क्रॉस कंट्री स्की करेंगे 550 किलोमीटर, सो 555, राइट. एंड हम basically पहले इंडियंस होने वाले थे, so we were going to be the first Indians to ski across the ice cap, and I was going to be the youngest in the world to attempt this. मैं 17 साल की थी इस वक्त, और जाने से पहले हमने बहुत बात की, और हमें पता था कि मैं दुनिया में सबसे यंग होंगी इसको अटेम्प्ट करने के लिए. और पापा और मैं बात कर रहे थे और हमने बोला कि हमें इस एक्सपीडिशन के साथ थोड़ा और भी कुछ करना है. So right before I went on this expedition, मैं हरिद्वार में थी, and I saw वहाँ पे एक children's home है जिनके parents have leprosy. तो मैं वहाँ गई थी और मैंने देखा कि वो घर बस लड़कों के लिए था. तो मैंने I went and spoke to the management and I said, how come it's only for boys? And they said that, उस time they were like, we don't want to take the responsibility of having girls. And of course, at that point, immediately I was like, no, you have to have girls. So they said, "Okay, if you bring in the funds, we'll bring in the girls." So I actually used the expedition, this Greenland skiing expedition. I told my friends and my family and my school to donate money for every kilometer that I skied across the ice cap, and we managed to raise enough money to actually bring in 10 girls into the home at the end of the expedition, which was very, very exciting. The expedition in itself was absolutely incredible. 21 days, that's 3 हफ्ते हम बस snow ice में थे. हर दिन 8-8 घंटे के लिए we would be skiing, and it was very, very tough. It was one of the most challenging things I'd ever done. बहुत ही ठंड थी. ये actually हमारे expedition के एक team member थे, इनका नाम टोनी है. और if you can see, it was so cold that the icicles actually froze on his mustache. And for all of you out there, this is not snot, nor is it sweat. ये पसीना नहीं है जो उसके mustache में है, पर actually उसके breath, so it's the moisture from his breath. इतनी ठंड थी कि जो भी थोड़ा सा पानी हमारे breath में भी होता है, वो भी बिल्कुल जम जाता है. तो इसलिए वो बिल्कुल walrus की तरह लग रहा है इस पिक्चर में. Greenland में 24 hours of daylight भी होता है. So no matter what time of the night you wake up, it's still daylight outside because it's above the Arctic Circle. So that was also very, very incredible. One of the most amazing things about going to these remote parts of our planet that many people don't actually get to see is that you get to witness some incredible sights, and you get to see some absolutely stunning, untouched places. It makes you realize, firstly, how lucky we are, to have this beautiful planet that's been given to us. But you also realize that it's our duty to try and protect it, to try and make sure that we leave it cleaner than we found it. I think being outdoors and getting to see these places that have been untouched by humans really made me realize how important it is that, in places like our country, when we go out for treks, when we go out for hikes, to not throw trash, on the mountains, to be very, very careful and to leave Mother Nature as beautiful as we found it. So of course, we managed to successfully ski across the ice cap, 550 kilometers. Dad and I were the first Indians to do it. I was the youngest in the world. It was absolutely amazing to be able to do it. Very, very difficult, of course, and there were times when the going got very tough. But you realize, there are ways to cope with it, and I'll talk to you about that in a little bit. So soon after this, Dad and I actually went on our first mountaineering expedition. So हम दोनों ने हमारा पहला पहाड़ एक साथ चढ़ा. And this was right after I graduated from school. तो मेरा graduation gift एक climb था Mount Elbrus. This is the highest mountain in Europe. तो हम दोनों चढ़े और हमें लगा कि this is बहुत ही मजा आया एक साथ चढ़ने में. I think Dad and I love doing these expeditions together. It's a great way to bond. And उसके बाद मैं actually college चली गई. मैं अमेरिका में थी 4 साल के लिए. वहाँ environmental sciences पढ़ रही थी. पर जब भी वक्त मिला मैं बाहर जाती थी. मैं kayaking करती थी. ये न्यूयॉर्क में एक river है. उसका नाम है मूस रिवर. और फिर मैं हाइकिंग के लिए भी जाती थी, स्कीइंग भी करने जाती थी. जब भी मौका मिले मैं बाहर जाती थी और I would try and spend as much time as I could outdoors. And जब मैं वहाँ थी, पापा मुझे मिलने आए और हम दोनों बात करने लगे. When you grow up in the field of adventure, सब पहाड़ों के बारे में जब बात करते हैं तो पहला नाम जो दिमाग में आता है वो जरूर Mount Everest है. And I remember Dad and I spent so much time talking and thinking about Mount Everest that it finally came to a point where one of us said हमें चढ़ना चाहिए and the other person was immediately like yes. So हमने actually 2 साल ट्रेनिंग की. जैसे ही मैं कॉलेज से वापस आई हमने 2 साल के लिए ट्रेनिंग किया and then हम actually Mount Everest चढ़ने के लिए निकले. So हमारा training was very, very intense. What we would do would be about 4 hours of intense cardio every day while we were in Delhi. And then we would go out on practice expeditions. We would go out to our campsites in Shivpuri. हमारा business भी adventure tourism ही है. तो जब भी मैं काम के लिए जा रही होती थी, मैं actually trekking के लिए जाती थी. And I would put extra weight in my bags and go and climb and practice and train like that. This is what the north face of Mount Everest looks like. तो ज़्यादातर लोग 2 तरफ से चढ़ते हैं. एक है the typical route, which is from Nepal. That's the south side. So Edmund Hillary and Sherpa Tenzing also climbed from the south side. हमने actually decide किया कि हम north side से climb करेंगे. And the reason why we decided to climb from the north side is because though it's steeper, it's more physically challenging, it's windier, it's colder, but we also felt that it's a little bit safer. Because it's steeper, there's less avalanche danger, and also it's significantly less crowded because not many people climb from the north side. So Dad and I decided that because even though it's a little bit more difficult, थोड़ा तो ज़्यादा मुश्किल तो है ही ये north side, पर थोड़ा ज़्यादा हमें लगा कि ये थोड़ा ज़्यादा safe भी है. और मम्मी को बताना था ना कि half of her family is going out on this expedition which doesn't have the best reputation. So one of the ways to convince her was to say that hey, it's a little bit safer. तो हमने 4 practice expeditions किए. We went on 4 practice expeditions. The first one was to climb a mountain called Kangyapse 2 in Ladakh. After which we went to Nepal. We actually bought a lot of our equipment and met our Sherpas. We went to this beautiful lake called Gokyori. It was another high altitude climb. The reason why you actually have to wear a lot of your equipment, सारा equipment एक बारी तो पहनना ही है, ज़्यादा actually बहुत ही बार पहनना है, उसके साथ practice करना है. You have to, right? Just as you wouldn't, if any of you play an instrument or if any of you say play soccer or cricket, just as you wouldn't use a new cricket bat on the day of your first match, similarly on the big expedition you can't be wearing new shoes and new equipment. So you have to make sure that you've practiced with that equipment and you know how to use it before you actually go out on the expedition. The third expedition that we went on, practice expedition, was climbing. So we went to France and we did a lot of crevasse rescue and avalanche danger and avalanche rescue. And then we also did some ice climbing. So this is actually me climbing up frozen waterfall in France. And then finally, the fourth and final expedition we went on was to Ladakh, again on another high altitude climb, where we had the very, very, very good fortune of seeing the very elusive snow leopard. आप सब जानते होंगे कि seeing the snow leopard is very, very difficult. So it almost felt like a good omen of sorts to be able to see this grey ghost of the Himalayas before we were about to embark for Everest Base Camp. So this is what the base camp of Mount Everest looks like from the north side. It's absolutely stunning. And before we went any further up the mountain, that actually at the back there, you should be able to see right here. That's actually Mount Everest. And, you know, you actually spend a week at base camp. And before you go any further up the mountain, you have a prayer ceremony. Let me tell you, a lot of people talk about conquering mountains, huh? They say that DEEYA, now that you've climbed Everest, you've conquered the mountain. Let me tell you, when you're sitting there at base camp and you see this big, beautiful mountain in front of you, you realize that there's absolutely no such thing as conquering Mother Nature. If anything, you're very, very lucky, very, very fortunate to have the opportunity to go there. But at the end of the day, it's all to do with the mountain. You know, if you treat the mountain with respect, and you must treat it with humility, because the mountain is too big. You know, Mother Nature, there's no contending with Mother Nature. So we had this prayer ceremony before we went any further up the mountain. Now, the reason why a journey or a climb, an expedition to Mount Everest takes so long, you know, ये 6 हफ्ते से लेके 8 हफ्ते ले सकते हैं. And the reason why people take so long is because if you were to find a magical helicopter that directly takes you to the summit, you would die within 4.5 minutes. क्योंकि वहाँ के ऑक्सीजन लेवल्स इतने कम हैं समिट पे कि हमारा बॉडी, हमारा शरीर उसको, it won't be able to adapt, it won't be able to do, you know, live at that height. So the reason why an expedition takes so long is क्योंकि आपको धीरे 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 you have to go up the mountain and let your body get acclimatized to the low levels of oxygen. So you actually spend a week at base camp, then you climb up a little bit further to advanced base camp. You then climb up, you spend a week at advanced base camp, then you climb up a little bit further to North Col, you spend a night there, you climb up a little bit to Camp 2, and then you climb all the way back down, back to base camp, जहाँ आप wait करते हो, जब तक वो बोलते हैं कि 1 हफ्ते के लिए बिल्कुल clear weather है, और फिर आप अपना पूरा summit attempt कर सकते हैं. This is what the terrain climbing up looks like. पहले तो बिल्कुल, you know, पत्थरी वाला रास्ता है, and then it slowly evolves, becomes snow and ice. Yaks can go up to advanced base camp, so till there you can actually take a lot of equipment, and the yaks are carrying all of your stuff. But everything beyond that, it's a wall of snow and ice. So everything that you carry is on your backs, and you're climbing up. And this is where the climb gets serious, right? You are attached to a rope. रस्सी के साथ you are attached on the mountain all the time. The rope is set up by a team of Sherpas every year, and both the Chinese government and the Nepalese government on either side arrange for that. The climb now is steep. You take 3 or 4 steps, and every step you take, you have to stop and take a couple of breaths. और फिर से 2-3 स्टेप ले आगे, और फिर 1-2 सांस लेना पड़ता है. बहुत ही धीरे क्लाइंब होता है, पर you know, फोकस करना पड़ता है. ये रेस नहीं, मैराथन है, तो बहुत ही टाइम लगा के करना होता है, but you have to be patient. बाथरूम भी जाना होता है. This is what Camp 1 looks like. You have to be attached to a rope. You can't at any point make a small mistake. एक तरफ यहाँ पे there's the steep drop to base camp, advanced base camp, and on the other side there's a big crevasse that goes into God knows where. So either side there are very, very steep drops. It's very, very dangerous, and over here a small mistake can lead to very, very big consequences. And we kept climbing up. This is now what the climb up to Camp 2 looks like. You can see we're wearing हमारे बड़े down suits सब पहन रहे हैं, so that it's warmer. And oxygen masks भी पहन रहे हैं for supplemental oxygen. And हम चढ़ रहे थे एक दिन, you know, Camp 1 से Camp 2 तक, when we faced one of the most frightening situations on the mountain. So imagine, right? It's a bright, beautiful, sunny day. You're climbing Mount Everest, with your father. Both of you have been climbing strong. Everything is going well. When all of a sudden, in what seems like, 5 to 10 minutes, the weather changes. Suddenly, the winds are gusting at 40 kilometers per hour, and it feels like you're going to be blown off the face of the earth. It is so cold. The temperatures went down to minus 40 degrees Celsius, and it was one of the most frightening situations. Let me tell you, in places at times like this, it is very, very scary. All you want to do is stop, but you can't stop. अगर आप इस point पे रोको, तो immediately your body, right, the minute you stop moving, your body stops generating heat. And the minute your body stops generating heat, you become very, very cold, very, very fast. And that can lead to frostbite and hypothermia. If you stop moving, agar aap roko, you're not the only person that's stopping. You're stopping jo bhi aapke piche hai, unko bhi rok rahe ho. So you're not only putting yourself in danger, but aap apne pure team ko danger mein dal rahe ho. And so in a situation like this, you have no option. You have to grit your teeth and keep going forward and think positive and keep just thinking one step at a time, one step at a time, and keep moving forward like that. We finally did make it through the storm, and we kept climbing. I'll talk a little bit about some of the things that, मैं थोड़ी देर में बात करूंगी कि storm के वक्त हम क्या, क्या सोचते हैं, और how do we keep ourselves, going forward. तो हम फाइनली अब कैंप 3 पहुंचे. कैंप 3 हमारा समिट कैंप है. यहाँ से हम एक्चुअली बस 8 घंटे यहाँ पे हम वेट करते हैं. तो हम we reached at about 12 p.m. in the afternoon and we stayed there till 8 p.m. at night. But let me show you the view from our summit camp. जब भी लोग व्यू के बारे में बात करते हैं कि हमारे रूम से इतना अच्छा व्यू है, let me tell you, I've never had a better view from my room other than this camp 3. We were actually above the clouds and it was very, very beautiful. So we left for the summit 8 baje raat ko. Or the reason why you climb at night is because the conditions on the mountain are more stable at night. So you actually climb through the dark, aap andhere mein pure raat chalte hain. And the idea is to sort of reach the summit by the time the day breaks and then be off the mountain before it's about 12 p.m. in the afternoon, because that's when the weather turns really bad. So the summit day is typically a climb of 20 hours where you're climbing and reaching the summit and then coming back down. The first half you are climbing in the dark with your headlamp and all you can see is the path ahead of you. You're navigating some very, very treacherous parts of the mountain. There are 3 main paths that you have to navigate: the first step, the second step, and the third step. These are vertical walls of snow and ice and rock. There's actually a ladder on the second step that was put up by the Chinese, and it's the small ladder, and as you move up, the entire thing shakes and you're wearing this big bulky equipment. You have crampons on your feet. It's actually one of the most difficult things to do, and it's actually at the bottom here that there are some bodies of climbers who unfortunately perished on the expedition, and their bodies still lie there for you to see. And as you can imagine, as a climber, it's one of the most difficult things to see a fellow climber that didn't make it. It's, that may have been lying there for years and years and years, perfectly preserved. It was while we were going up, we actually crossed 3 of the most hardest parts on the mountain. Both Dad and I, we'd been climbing completely well. और हम 1 घंटे दूर थे summit से. जब पापा मुझे, he turned around and he said, "DEEYA, I can't breathe." And I looked at him immediately and I said, "What are you saying, Dad? What do you mean?" And what had happened was his oxygen mask had stopped working. And it was very, very scary. But, we had 2 options at that time. Because the path was so narrow, I couldn't stop and wait with him. So I could either keep moving forward or I could turn back and go back down the mountain. But both of us couldn't wait and stay there at the same time. So Dad, of course, said, "DEEYA, you've been climbing strong. You keep going. I'll catch up with you. Don't worry. I'll figure it out." We didn't have much time to have this discussion. Let me tell you, जब आप उस height पे हैं, तो दिमाग भी ठीक से चल रहा नहीं होता. You know, something that would usually take you 20 seconds to do, it takes you 5 minutes to actually process. By the time we had the conversation, you know, Dad was like, "This is not a question. You go ahead." And so I kept moving forward, but I was very, you know, with a very heavy heart, and I was very scared, very nervous. So I kept climbing, and I actually ended up reaching the summit of Mount Everest while it was still dark outside. And I'm sitting there right below the summit, and it didn't even hit me that I had reached, you know, because I was so nervous, I was so scared for Dad. And then the most beautiful thing in the world happened. You know, just as the sun started to rise above the horizon, I saw Dad walking towards me. And it was this incredible moment because we both, you know, walked towards each other and hugged at the summit of Mount Everest. It was very, very emotional. I think both of us had tears in our eyes. And we sat there, and you can see the grins on our faces.
Okay.
Distress.
DEEYA,
Bye.
we're on top of the world.
And of course, unfurling the national flag, you can see how happy we both are. It was an absolutely incredible experience. But let me tell you, there was something else that was keeping us going. You know, in India, unfortunately, sometimes us girls aren't given the same opportunities as boys. You know, we're often told, especially with mountaineering and sports, you know, leave it to the boys. And I've always felt very lucky to have come from a family which supported me and encouraged me to follow my dreams, regardless of my gender, you know. And climbing as a father-daughter team, climbing as India's first father-daughter team, it was important to us, not for the record, but to show families all over India, ki, hey, look, us girls, we can do a lot. We can achieve so much, but we can do a lot more if our families are supporting us, if they're there as pillars of strength, if they believe in us, if they believe in our dreams. So, climbing as a father daughter team and unfurling our national flag with such a strong message to send to all girls, to all families, to all boys in India. Hey, dream big, support each other, and work hard to achieve those dreams. It was an absolutely incredible experience. But of course, the excitement, the euphoria, the happiness, it lasts for about 5 minutes. Then you realize, acha, okay, we've made it up, but oh gosh, we've got to go back down. And the going down part is a lot more scary. Up, right? It was dark. All you could see is the path ahead of you. You can't see the steep drops. You can't see how scary it is. You know how far way down the slope of the mountain goes. But all of a sudden, on the way down, you can see how steep it is and how narrow the path is. Here's a little video showing you this. So you can see kitna steep the drop is, and it's actually two-way traffic on some of these paths. So it's very, very. I looked at each other and we said, you know what? We're not going to celebrate until we both come down safely in one piece. And we did finally. And once this is actually climbing down that same ladder that I spoke to you about previously. And you know, you can see how happy and how relieved we are now that we finally made it down. You can see the big smile on my face. It was definitely great. But of course, we were very, very lucky to come back down safely. Many things can go wrong on expeditions like this. One of our members on another team, actually, he got a very bad case of frostbite because he decided it was a great idea to go and in the middle of the storm, he would keep taking his cigarettes out on the mountain, right? And he would keep smoking them and he'd take his gloves off to smoke cigarettes. And as you can see, he got such a bad case of frostbite that all 10 of his fingers actually had to be amputated. And I think if it teaches you anything, it teaches you that you can't, even for a minute, let your guard down on the mountain. You have to be so humble and you have to respect the mountain. And you can't think even for a second, what I want to do is more important than what the weather or the mountain's conditions are, because those small mistakes can have huge consequences. The adventures have continued. Both Dad and I are on a mission to climb the 7 summits, which is the highest mountain in each continent. We've climbed 6 of the 7 summits so far. This is actually Mount Vinson. We're unfurling our national flag on Mount Vinson. We unfurled the national flag in January 2019, 1st of January, actually. That was incredible. And we've climbed 6 of the 7, and we're left with only one, Mount Denali in Alaska, which is North America. Hopefully, we should be climbing that in June this year, if all goes. A short message right now. Resilience, like how do you get through these very, very difficult situations in life? And we have an acronym for it, ROPES, right? So the R in ROPES stands for resilience, right? And the O in ROPES is outlook. Now, outlook is the way you think, right? When you're on a storm, when the conditions are horrible, when it's minus 40 degrees Celsius, your outlook, staying positive, is so, so, so important. You have to focus on the positive. The minute you start thinking negative, that's when you've lost your summit. That's when you've lost the battle, right? If you don't think positive, then things can sort of go downhill very, very fast. And I think being in very difficult situations actually helps you understand that things can always be worse. Things can always be difficult. I think through the pandemic, all of us have probably faced some very, very difficult situations. It's been something that no one in this world sort of was prepared for. And I think, if anything, it's taught us all that we have to be grateful for the things that we have, and we have to always focus on the positive, because the minute you start thinking negatively, that's when sort of you aren't able to complete. The P in ropes is for planning and preparation. The reason why I spoke at such great length about our practice expeditions, how much we trained, is because there's a lot of glamour associated with climbing Mount Everest once you've climbed it, right? Everyone's like, wow, you've climbed it. But what you forget is there's so much hard work, there's so much planning, there's so much preparation that goes behind an expedition like this. It's something that I jokingly say I've been training for my whole life. So in anything that you do in life, I feel like, if you practice hard, the better, good fortune will support you. The harder you practice, the luckier you'll get. But for anything that you do in life, I think if you're armed with a lot of preparation and a positive attitude, that's half the battle won. The E in ropes is for evolving, right? And you must always, in life, you're going to have a lot of things that are stressful, right? But the minute you start getting scared of a stressful situation, then you're going to sort of lose the battle. What you have to do is think of it as a challenge. Change the way you think. Lean into it. Don't get scared, but say, okay, I'm going to figure out a way to deal with this situation. Because the problem is, like, we can't actually stop things from happening to us, right? We can't change what happens to us. But the thing we can change is the way we react. So evolving is very, very important when it comes to being resilient. And finally, the S in ropes is support system. I think all of us today are very, very lucky. You know, think about the people in your lives who support you, who give you strength. You know, whether it's fantastic organizations like DEEYA, you know, who are there for you, who you know, give you opportunities to hear people speak, to share their story, and you know, all the other absolutely incredible work they give and they do. I think, you know, something that I've personally felt, something that helps me be resilient, is having a very strong system of people around me. I don't think climbs like Mount Everest would be possible without the love and support of my friends and family, um, and also giving back. So it's important to not only have, you know, a strong support system, to invest in them, to take that time out. I think during lockdown, it's so easy to get frustrated with the people around you when they're all that you see. But you have to remember they are the people that are going to get you through those hard times. So support, like invest in your support system, you know, show them appreciation, show them love, and then be a support system for other people. Give back in any way that you can. Let me tell you, there's no better feeling than helping people out. And I think, you know, associated with a great platform like DEEYA, all of you do have the opportunity to do that. And I know you do a lot of fantastic work out there. But, you know, on these climbs, there's no substitute for a good support system, your team members, your friends and family back home. So take a second to appreciate the people who are there for you. Invest in them, because at the end of the day, they are the people who are going to get you through the toughest times. With that, I would like to end. I'd like to say thank you so much for listening to me and for hearing me share my story. I wish you all health, happiness, and success much, much higher than Mount Everest. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, ma'am, for that enlightening and very exciting talk. It literally gave us all goosebumps. I mean, thank you so much for taking us through your journey. It was as if we were watching it all live, like a movie. And I have some of the audiences talking about that view from your tent that you showed us. Thank you so much for taking us through that. Well, needless to say, there is so much to take away from your talk today about your determination of having a home built for the girls, your perseverance to keep moving on, even when your dad could not continue with you, about respecting the mountains, about Rose, resilience, outlook, evolving, and support system. Thank you so much for giving us those takeaways from your talk. I'm sure there must be a lot more which I have not captured, but many other volunteers have. Well, a few years back, a team of about 30 to 40 young DEEYA volunteers also went on a spiritual trip to Monsiari, which I would just like to share. We went to the Himalayas, to the Monsiari camp, and we could really see the Panchachuli view from our accommodation, and it was just beyond words. You know, जैसे कि आपने बताया, छोटे छोटे किस्से जो उस समय काफी स्ट्रेसफुल लग रहे थे, अब उन बातों पे हम हंसते हैं और हम उनको हंसकर याद करते हैं. कहीं ना कहीं हमने ये भी जरूर जाना कि it is all about your willpower and determination that pulls you out of any adverse your journey. And we also faced certain adversities and some really difficult situations, but teamwork and determination was what you know, we all came through. एंड पंडित श्रीराम शर्मा आचार्य जी ने भी चार बार हिमालय की यात्रा की थी, और उन्होंने उसके बाद एक किताब लिखी थी छोटी सी, जिसका नाम है सुनसान के सहचर, wherein he's elaborated some of the incidents that he went through his journey, and he has beautifully correlated them on how even small learning from the journey can bring a big change to our lives. And it's a lovely book. I mean, we've all read about it, all the volunteers, and I would like to share a link. Maybe you can also go through that, and I'm sure you know, you can also go through the same journey. Well, it is evident that there are two aspects of climbing Mount Everest. One is the physical realm, wherein your capacity building is tested, and the other is one spiritual realm, where your mindfulness, your perseverance, and character building is tested. And everybody has an Everest to climb, for that matter, because whether or not you're a mountaineer, you're all all of us are dealing with some of our own inner struggles, and well, spirituality also plays a vital role in climbing our own Everest. Well, on behalf of DEEYA, ma'am, I would assure that we will work with you together in future wherever our synergies meet. And we want to request you to join us in our women empowerment program, which is the Parivar Nirman that I spoke earlier in the introduction for women. And on behalf of Gayatri Parivar, I would like to invite you to visit us at Shanti Kunj and Dev Sanskriti Vishwavidyalaya in Haridwar, which is basically a university built on the lines of Takshashila and Nalanda. And with the Golden Jubilee year of Shanti Kunj approaching, various personalities from various walks of life are visiting Shanti Kunj, and it will be a great honor to have you there and host you. With that, we have a lot of questions pouring in, and I'd like to take up a few of them. So one of the audiences says, "Salute to you, ma'am, for your journey. I would want to know, where would you see yourself in the next 10 to 15 years? And also, the sports that you are into, is it affordable for everyone or not? Can you please guide us?"
So mountaineering for sure is it's a highly specialized and very technical sport. So if you start out with trekking and you start out with the more basic forms, yes, as a starting, that is definitely more affordable. But as you go into the more technical climbing, it does become more and more expensive. So we did have a couple of sponsors associated with our cause, specifically because we had this message that we really wanted to spread. So we were very fortunate to have a couple of people that supported us, and that allowed us to actually go and afford some of the more expensive climbs. And in 10 to 15 years, well, I'm actually leaving for my MBA in August. And so I will be going to the Wharton School of Business for 2 years in the US and then returning back to India. My idea is that, to of course get a great education, but then come back and positively impact my country in any way that I can, or our country, I beg your pardon. And whatever it is, I do want to make sure that I make a very, very positive impact in the adventure space in India. I think Abhi Adventure has a bit of a bad name to it. I want to tell people that it's not a sport for daredevils. If you do it correctly and if you have the right training and the right equipment, then it can be very, very safe. I think the problem is people often don't do that training, or they try and go for like an inexperienced provider, and that's where some accidents and mistakes happen. So I really want to change the face of the adventure industry, because I think the outdoors can teach you so much, and all of us really need to go out and spend time in nature. We in India have such a beautiful natural heritage, so must make use of that. So I want to make a positive impact in the adventure industry in India, and of course, try and do whatever I can to inspire the youth and the young women in India to work hard and achieve their dreams, and dream much, much higher than Mount Everest.
That's excellent. Thank you so much. So from our other participants who've not joined on WebEx, but on Facebook and YouTube, there is a question going, how would you prepare yourself to the summit, not physically, but mentally?
How do you prepare yourself for the summit, not physically, but mentally? I think through, it's a very, very tough process, right? Each and every expedition that I went on previously would challenge me in some way where I thought it's really pushing me to my limit. But then I would be able to push past that and fight beyond that and go one step closer. So I think each and every expedition that I did was in some way some form of training to finally help me keep pushing my barriers, pushing what I thought I was capable of, and moving forward, constantly evolving. And I still am. I think each and every expedition that I go on till date always challenges me in a new way. You have to understand that nothing can really prepare you for what's out there. Sometimes it can be scary, it can be challenging, but if you stay positive and you stay good to the people around you, if you have that strong team around you, you can make it through anything. I think keeping that positive attitude is very, very important. I do think taking some time out, you're spending it's very spiritual actually, going out on these climbs, because a lot of the times you're in these big vast open spaces and you have so much time just to think and reflect. You can't really speak to the people around you, so it's about 8 hours where you're in these stunning places and you're just physically exerting yourself but just keeping to your thoughts. And I think in a way also sort of gives you some strength and gives you some focus that you can even then bring back to your real life. But it's a constantly sort of evolving process. You do yoga, you do meditation, and then while you're out there, you just keep challenging yourself and building yourself up for the next summit.
Thank you. And it is not an easy task. Physical strength, yes, you would need a lot of training, but you have to be equally mentally strong to summit. There's another question, which is, what is your next goal apart from the 7 summits?
So the next big expedition is that MBA. So back to the books and studying for me, which I think is a little scarier than the expeditions, to be honest. But I strongly believe that education is sort of something that is very, very important in life. So I'm very, very excited to sort of be going and studying a little bit further. And then of course this is a big, beautiful planet that we live in. We have a big, beautiful country filled with so many amazing adventures, treks, climbs, hikes to do. So lots to explore, lots to do. Adventures definitely still to come.
Thank you. The next one is, what was your first thought that came to your mind when you stood there at the Mount Everest? And how did you deal with all the happiness pouring in?
So I mentioned this, but when I actually reached the summit, gosh, I was just so worried about Dad that actually I didn't even realize. I was just sitting there and I was like, God, where's Dad? Just looking at these paths of oncoming climbers, thinking like, where is Dad? And it was when he reached and when I saw him, well, firstly I was like, oh my gosh, I was so relieved. I was so relieved. And it's only when I finally hugged him and we both hugged at the summit of Mount Everest, that's when I was like, wow, okay, we've made it. But also, it's a very brief sort of happiness, because then you're immediately focusing on, okay, now we have to come back down safe. So that actual happiness and that actual elation and that actual excitement only kind of hit after we were off the summit, and once we were back in camp and we were sort of like having a hot cup of soup in the kitchen tent, then you're like, oh my God, did we just do this? But until then, you're so focused on the mission and getting back that you don't really have time to be that excited. So that's yeah.
Yeah, thank you for taking us through your journey. Whatever you're saying, we're actually, it's like a movie coming in. We can actually, there should be a movie on that. The next question is, what is the role of parents in making you what you are today? Can you please elaborate on that?
I think my parents have played a very, very big role in my in doing a lot of things. Well, firstly, for encouraging me. It's not about it's less about saying no, right? So tell your kids, when they dream big, when they say something like, hey, Mom and Dad, I love adventure and one day I want to climb Everest, instead of saying, no, beta, that's too difficult, saying, hey, okay, let's train for it together. Let's do, everything we possibly can to physically and mentally prepare you for it. and then see, where the journey takes you. So I think, like, my parents, I've been very, very fortunate that they've always told me and my younger sister to dream big and work hard to achieve those dreams. And of course, there'll be challenges, and of course, there'll be many, many obstacles on the path, but don't lose sight of your goal. And I think as parents, it is easy to sort of, forget that, like, to encourage your child in something that they're passionate about. It's very easy to, like, sort of take that traditional route and say, nay, nay, all you must do is study and get a good job. Of course they must study, of course they must get a good job, but they must spend time. Don't spend all your time indoors and in the books. Like, get out there. There's a whole big, beautiful world. That's what's going to build your character. That's what's going to build your personality. It's going to be difficult, it's going to be challenging, but once you get through that, that's where you learn. That's where all the learning happens. And so I do think that my parents have had a very, very big role in helping inculcate beliefs and values in me. And as parents, if there are, I'm sure there are parents out there, but just say that regardless, girl or boy, tell your kids to follow their passions and help them, talk to them about it, and give them wings, to fly.
Right. Thank you so much for that thought. Another question that comes in is that, do you plan Mount Everest again, like some of the other passionate mountaineers? Because Everest is a whole, different world. Do you plan to climb it again?
Well, if given the opportunity, I think if there are other routes, or if there is like a climb that I could lead potentially, yes, I would consider climbing Everest again. But also, as I mentioned, we have such a big, beautiful planet with so many different adventures and other places and things to see, that there are so many more things on my bucket list. But of course, if given the opportunity, and there is something exciting and a great cause attached to it, I would be more than happy to that mountain, because like Everest does have this beautiful aura to it, and when you're on the mountain, there's nothing like it. So I would definitely consider going up again.
Thanks. Another question is, can we know something about the Nehru Institute of Mountaineering, and any specific course that you can recommend for newbies?
So there are 3 courses that the Nehru Institute of Mountaineering offers. And well, you could do so. There's an adventure course that's for younger people. So that's about a 14-day course where you do a whole bunch of different adventure activities. And then there's the basic course. That's a 1-month-long program. And it's an absolutely incredible program. You learn the basics of mountaineering. It's a great course. And I would highly recommend that. And once you do that, then you can actually do your advanced course, and then actually go forward and do an instructor's course or a search and rescue course. So there are lots of great courses if you actually decide to go down that path. It's in Uttarkashi, and I've done my advanced course from there, and I'm hoping to go and do my search and rescue soon.
Well, thank you. And there are also some courses for yoga and meditation, some physical fitness courses in Dev Sanskriti Vishwavidyalaya University, which is based in Haridwar, which can also be done. If just a thought from some of the volunteers that are coming in, could you take a team of young DEEYA volunteers someday to a trek, maybe not Everest, because that's not everybody's cup of tea, but maybe to trek somewhere and learn certain things from you?
I'd be delighted to. That's definitely a great idea.
Well, on that note, I would thank you so much, DEEYA ma'am, for the excellent insights. It was a wonderful experience to go through your journey, and thank you so much for that today. I once again thank everyone who has joined today as audiences on all the platforms, Cisco, WebEx, YouTube, and Facebook. Usually, our volunteers also take some time off, and if they can't join on the day, they view the video at their convenient time. So it is also available online on all these platforms. We hope that all of us are taking something back from today's talk, and maybe we'll reflect upon it. Thank you so much, ma'am. We hope to see you again, maybe wherever our synergies meet, as I said. Thank you, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. We hope to see you again in the next week's Gyan Sabha with a different thought leader on a different topic. Next week on 7th of March, as part of celebrating International Women's Day, we will have Adaniya Shefali Pandya ji from Shantikunj headquarters, Haridwar, All World Gayatri Parivar, to share insights on the topic, Salute to Women at Home. You can stay updated with us on our social media platforms, which will be put in the chat box on Cisco WebEx, which is, okay. And also, we'd request you to please share your feedback with us on the link provided for today's talk. On a very quick thing, there are, since the pandemic has started, there's an initiative of Gayatri Parivar for prayers for coronavirus pandemic this is a short prayer from 6:20 to 6:30 p.m. every day. You can join in to all the volunteers throughout the globe, not through any link, but just at your own convenience, at your own places. Just stop everything and close your eyes and please pray for the pandemic to end soon, and so that everything comes back to normal again. We are on the last leg of our session today, and I would like to conclude the session with a Shanti Path, which is a small prayer for global peace. Om Deo Shantirantariksha Gum Shanti Prithvi Shanti Rapah Shanti Roshadhayah Shanti Vanaspatayah Shanti Vishve Deva Shanti Brahma Shanti Sarvagum Shanti Shanti Deva Shanti Sama Shanti Redhi. Om Shanti 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 Sarvarishta Shantir Bhavatu. Thank you so much, everyone.